Hey guys, everyone, and welcome back to another video on politics, trying to make politics easier for everyone to understand. And today I'll be talking a bit more about the recent meeting that Trump had. If you did not know, this was a recent meeting that they have done, let's say from basically on 31st of January. Basically, Trump was having a meeting, basically talking with reporters a lot, and he talked a lot about other stuff, including the plane crash, including the firing of many DEI people, and all such of stuff. But today I wanted to talk about one of the more pressing matters that I think everyone is thinking of is the economy and what he plans to do with the economy because Trump is announcing that as of recording actually is probably happening right now. For me it's 12 a.m. so for the Americans should be around 10 a.m. Of the 1st of February, which means his plans will already be in place. What are his plans? Trump has planned to put a bunch of tariffs on many countries. He's talked about doing this ever since the election campaign. He's been talking about putting a lot of tariffs, and starting from the 1st of February, he says he will be imposing tariffs on mainly Canada, Mexico, and China. And today we'll be talking about a bit about these tariffs and what might just happen to the American economy just in general. What will happen uh, over time? As you can see, this the I've written down some of the stuff he says in the meeting, and today I'll be going through. Uh, and starting off is that these tariffs will be about like as you can see, Canada, as well as Mexico and China, have a big trade surplus with USA, which means that USA currently has a trade deficit. As you can see in this article, the US Canadian trade deficit is the highest in 20 years. And if you look down all the way here, it shows that the deficit with Canada is about 64 billion or 78 billion. So it's around 60 to 80 billion, right? And then if you look at China's trade deficit is about 279.4 billion. That's a lot of money, right? And we also take a look at Mexico. Mexico, where is it? Uh, yeah, somewhere around here. See, 200. Oh yeah, China is 222 billion. Mexico is about yeah, somewhere around here, 40 billion. Um, some people say it's 130 billion. Some say it's very low. I expect it to be around 100 billion or so. And so what this means basically is that America is paying more money to other countries than it's receiving. So that's what we call a trade deficit in economics terms. Now, trade deficits aren't actually that bad. If you run a trade deficit, but your economy at home, your domestic economy is still very good, that doesn't mean that you're gonna be poor. I mean, you can be a very rich nation but still run a trade deficit, just like America is. But in this case, America's deficit is extremely high. I'm pretty sure America is in huge amounts of debt. So, what are the aims of these tariffs that America is planning to put in place? Right, America plans to put in place tariffs in Canada, Mexico, and China. Well, what this will do is basically, if you want to trade with America, if like a Canadian company suddenly wants to trade with America, well now, before they'll be able to trade all their goods to America, they have to pay 25%. Basically, yeah. So Trump is planning to put in place a 25% tariff on Canadian goods. Some of the Canadian goods, which we'll get into later. But basically, if you're a Canadian company trying to export, I don't know, maple syrup. If you're trying to export a bottle of maple syrup to the United States, right? And now you're gonna have to pay 25% of the goods, the price of the maple syrup. You're gonna have to pay the U.S. government 25% of that money just to be able to sell it in America. So what this means is that the American government will be getting money while the Canadian companies which are trying to trade with America basically have to pay money. Right? So this is to help solve America's long growing debt that's been actually ballooning. Actually, if you take a look at America's debt, let's see. America debt. Real time. Sure. There's a debt clock apparently. Uh, you can see the American debt balloon. Something. Uh, yeah, it's big. But if we take a look over here, let's see. Give me a number. Give me a number. That's not enough. Oh, 120%. Right. And I guess, yeah. But basically, you can check the debt. United States debt. I think it's about 20 trillion to 30 trillion. About, yeah, 34.4 trillion according to CNBC. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but yeah, about 34 trillion. So, getting all this money through tariffs will definitely help the ballooning American debt. And what this means is that basically America gets richer, uh, while they because of all these tariffs. This is the intended plan. And as you can see, according to Trump, the things, or basically some of the things that will be tariffs, some of the things you can expect to see tariffs, will be things like computer chips. He's planning to, as you all know, China and U.S. are currently in a trade war, and one of the more important, or the most important commodity that two superpowers are fighting for are computer chips. Right? Technology will define the 21st century, and basically whoever controls all these computer chips, in this case it's places like Taiwan. I know your America has some chip making facilities, but mostly places like Europe and Taiwan are producing all these computer chips. Right, but I digress. Right, whoever controls all these computer chips will become basically they will basically be the most dominant power in the world. They will rule the 21st century. So, putting tariffs on computer chips is basically America saying that China is not gonna be, or basically China is not gonna be selling these like chips at such, or basically the Chinese company, because as y'all know, a lot of American companies are working in China, and there in China they're gonna make all the chips. So basically, the what the tariffs are in place for is to invite these American companies that are making chips in China to make the chips maybe in America, right? Because if you live in America, if you're a company in America, you pay no tax, you pay no tariffs. I mean, you pay tax, but you don't pay tariffs, right? So if you're a U.S. company based in China making chips, and you're selling to America, and suddenly America has 20, or in this case 10% tariff, right? You'll be more incentivized to basically move your base of operations to America. And that's what the goal is, and that's what the goal is for a lot of these commodities. He has promised a tariff on oil and gas, mainly coming from Canada. Canada's a big exporter of these oil and gas. Things like steel and copper, as you all know, Trump has talked a lot about the steel industry, America's steel industry capabilities, and as you all know that a lot of the steel industry in America has moved out to Mexico and China. So basically, America is hoping to get all these companies to go back to America. He has also talked about tariffs on pharmaceuticals, right? Pharmaceuticals. As you all know, America is a big producer of pharmaceuticals, but they are being heavily are just getting outcompeted by the lower prices of China, which can just mass produce a lot of these commodities due to their big manpower pool. Right, so we can expect tariffs on pharmaceuticals as well, and basically a bunch of other stuff. It might be like we don't know if these tariffs will be tariffs across the board, so every single product, or just these limited to these products. But we'll see that a lot of these raw materials like steel and copper, these are very essential to a lot of our lives, a lot of our basic commodities. So it's interesting to see how the tariffs will affect in that sector. All right, and as for the numbers, Trump is planning to put a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico. So 25% on Canada and Mexico, which are America's two neighbors. And actually, if you look at the graph, one of the graphs, um, Canada and Mexico represent about the majority represent the two most countries that America is importing from. Right, America imports from Canada and Mexico a lot because they're its neighbors. It's easier to import, and therefore putting a huge amount of tariff from on these two countries will drastically bring in a lot of revenue, or yeah, it'll bring in a lot of revenue for America, which can be used to help Americans, I guess, and this the theory, and also 10% on China, right? 10% on China. As y'all know, China and USA are in a big trade war, and this will go substantially to limiting China's capabilities, or basically limiting the amount of money that China gets, as well as bringing a lot of the American companies back to America. Right. So these are all the things that has been talked about. These are the basically what Trump intends to do. And I think as of today, they've already been implemented. So we'll have to see what happens to the economy. But I just want to talk a little bit about what could happen. What might the future hold? As you all know, the effectiveness of tariffs is hotly debated, very hotly debated among many people. Some people say it'll be good, it will like basically cure America's debt. Some people say it will ruin America, and I just wanted to talk about the different scenarios that you could see play out. I think that overall, yeah. So, and the first scenario, which is probably the most talked about scenario, is this concept of America, uh, this concept of tariffs basically ruining America, because as you all know, when you when for example Canada gets taxed, if Canada gets tariffs, I mean, if Canada gets tariffed by America, if you're a Canadian company trying to sell to America, for example, you're trying to sell things like uh, steel and copper to America, and then suddenly there's a tariff. You have many different options. The first option is you can go ahead with the tariff. You just bite the dust. And basically, what that's saying is pay that extra fee to you pay the extra fee to put your product on American shelves. But the product that you put on American shelf, you're gonna sell it for 25% more because the tariff's 25%. So you pay 25%, but you sell for 25%. That's the first scenario. The second scenario is that you just don't sell to America at all. So basically, what that entails is that you don't sell any of your products to America. You go find some other consumer. In that case, America will have less goods, and this could result in a goods shortage. It also could America could also possibly just not experience a shortage. As you all know, America is rich in a lot of these goods, so even if, let's say, some few companies pull out of America due to the tariffs, we likely won't be seeing any sort any sort of like shutdown in terms of the economy and things like that. I think that America has too many goods for these kinds of shutdowns. Right, but going back to the first scenario, let's say that suddenly products get 25% more expensive, or basically uh, the products that come from Canada or Mexico or China, they get more expensive. Well, then what you would see in theory would be inflation. Basically, the prices of these goods are going to be much more. Uh, they're going to increase substantially due to these tariffs. Now, this is all just theorized. This has happened in the past where some goods will get more expensive due to these tariffs, but usually tariffs are done in a much more smaller scale, which is why you don't really see these kind of economic collapses. So I highly doubt that American economy will collapse like most people are thinking. People are thinking that America is absolutely gonna implode on itself. The price of goods. All right, I will give you that. It's probably going to be expected that the price of goods will increase, right? This is a huge deal. These tariffs, 25% to the basically America's most important trading partners, right? 25% tariffs on all goods. We can either see that American goods are just going to get 25% more expensive. This is what many people are speculating, but in my opinion, I don't think it's what happened. More because Canada and, like I said, Canada and Mexico are America's biggest trading partners, but they're not America's only trading partners. And for example, if you have two eggs, you have one egg that was resourced from maybe China or Mexico or Canada. That's one egg, and then you have another egg that's resourced from Africa or Brazil, right? If the Canadian one gets extremely expensive, right? If the Canadian egg becomes extremely expensive, while the Brazilian egg doesn't get expensive because there's no tariffs. Obviously, you're gonna go for the Brazilian one. So I think what will happen instead is, instead of basically inflation. I mean, inflation still could happen, but what we'll be seeing is that a lot of goods from other countries that come into America, or likewise the domestic goods, right? Domestic goods and egg producing in the United States, these kind of products will be more highly sought after. Their demand will increase, where the trade with other countries like Canada or Mexico will basically crash because no one's gonna buy them, right? So whether this so yes, while America gets the money from the tariffs, I don't know how this will affect in the long term America's trade with Canada or Mexico. If these tariffs do remain permanent, I think that trade with these two countries will very be heavily be impacted. Obviously, right? We will definitely see some sort of decrease, but to what extent of a decrease, whether it's a complete collapse in these two countries, completely stop selling to America, or somewhat of a slight inconvenience, maybe a few millions or billions, or yeah, basically a few billions of dollars of trade less go to America. That I won't be able to predict, but for now, we just have to see what will happen. I don't think these like we won't be seeing changes until maybe a few days later. One day is really it's really hard to tell a difference that tariffs will make in a single day. So we'll just have to see in a couple of few days. I'm pretty optimistic. I'm pretty also at the same time pessimistic. Um, like I said, America's economy is too big to collapse. But whether it will increase or we'll see a inflation is very difficult to tell for now. But yeah, this is my take on the new Trump tariffs, and I hope you like it. Bye.